Does your family think and act like a team? This is essential if you have a child in crisis. Join us as we talk about that today on Family Vision. Well, we have an announcement.
Yes, we do.
Our family is growing or has grown.
That scares people. They think we're expecting a child. I'm not expecting a child. I just want to say that up front.
Bruce has joined us.
Yes, a puppy. Which Rob has been begging for such a long time.
It's true. It's true.
No, Rob calls all dogs dogs. Like, he doesn't really use their names. Dog.
Like, hello,
just
dog.
So
it's term of endearment.
Sort of. Sort of not. So yes, Bruce, I want to tell the story of his name. I think it's so cute. So we got this puppy. We had to make a really split decision. We were at the airport in Orlando when JD texts me and says, hey, this dog is available. And I'd been praying about getting a dog. I kept praying about the right dog, right time, and I wanted to get a dog at Easter.
I've been praying about not getting a dog. Right? It's like, how does
sovereignty
of God, right? Competing prayers.
So Easter, I wanted to give a dog, but we were flying out for this conference in Orlando on Monday, so I knew we couldn't get a dog at Easter. So here it is Sunday, we're flying home, and JD is texting me about this dog who is kind of related through his fiance Brooke, and long story there, but anyway, so this family that breeds dogs, they had one puppy left. This puppy was their favorite. He was basically half price. They were thinking about keeping him, but they have 4 little children, and they already had 2 dogs. They really didn't want a third. But one of the children loved this dog the most, and this child would call the dog Batman. So they didn't want to name the dog Batman, so they named him Bruce Wayne. And so I loved that. So we adopted Bruce Wayne, call him Bruce, or BW, or B-dubs, and people who know our family with like initials. So those are all kind of the going names for this sweet little puppy. But our life has changed dramatically. Yeah. Again.
So we had to put our 2 dogs down summer of 2021.
It's been a long time.
So there's been just a lot of enthusiasm for a replacement dog, and so we're back on puppy mode. Now, with Family Vision, we know lots of you are listening on Apple or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this. So we don't always say, oh, you've got to go watch this on YouTube. But for this episode, you really should switch over and check out this episode on YouTube, because overlaid over this whole conversation will be lots of pictures of Bruce. So if you want to see golden retriever puppy pictures,
right,
maybe even puppy videos, I don't know. We'll figure out that in post-production, but that will be there for your enjoyment. Now,
so fun.
It would be nice to keep talking about puppies, but we actually have a more serious conversation today. We're continuing from last week. This is part 2 of 3. We're talking about helping families in crisis. Now, when we say kids in crisis, we're talking about children with significant depression, anxiety, self-harm, addiction. And one essential thing that a child in crisis needs is for the family to have a team mindset. Let's unpack that.
So last week, we mentioned this principle of no one gets left behind. So once we meet with a family and talk about that principle, the very next step is to help the family develop a team mindset. And that just goes a little bit deeper into the same principle of like, how do we work as a team to solve this problem? What are some of the strategies? And it's basically the mindset in any team, like you're only as strongest as your weakest link. So how do we strengthen the weak link, but also strengthen the whole system? And one of the examples I shared at the workshop was to do with our daughter, Lissy, who had a significant amount of anxiety beginning when I try to pick an age. I think it's about 2.5, 3. And I don't have time to go into in this session about what were the causes of that anxiety. I have some theories, but basically places that she was comfortable going, like my parents' house or certain friends' houses, all of a sudden she could not be separated from me. So think very significant separation anxiety, social anxiety. I can remember a time we used to do these called Good Friday mornings at church, where it was kind of families in a gym and you'd be doing a craft. And so Lizzie must have been about 5, I think, at this point, and she spilled her juice. And, because there's crafts and all this stuff on the table, there's just an immediate reaction, right? A big thing of orange juice just spilled on the table. So everyone jumps up from their chairs, and I think someone says, "Lissy," just like that. No one's even really angry at her. It's just that now all of a sudden all this attention is gone on her. Well, she just went into complete panic mode, and that type of crying that little kids have, when they're hyperventilating and they, and the only thing that would work was pulling her out of that situation. I think I took her to the bathroom and went into a stall and just hugged her for a very long time. There was no reasoning. It was just, really working at calming her down. And that's the kind of what mode she could get into pretty quickly if she was in any situation where she felt uncomfortable, and that most of all included being apart from me. So it was a serious separation and social anxiety. And really one thing we had to do, was really change some of the ways we behaved as a family. So for example, when Lissy got to be at like that 6 to 8 range, she was invited to lots of birthday parties, but this was a really anxiety-provoking situation for her. So if she was at a birthday party, I would drop her off. I would get that call within, 5 or 10 minutes. I had to come back to be with her. And so, I had to make a choice. Either she was not going to go to any birthday parties, or I was going to stay at a lot of birthday parties. And that's what we chose to do. We stayed at a lot of birthday parties. I had other kids at the time, so I'd be bringing maybe RW and JD, and now we're homeschooling. So now RW is maybe 8, Lissy's 6, and he's an 8-year-old boy at the 6-year-old girl birthday party, doing his math homework or something like that. Not a lot of fun for him. But that team mindset helped Lissy to know that she was not alone in her problem, that we were all in this together. And the beautiful thing about that is that when Lissy was finally able to go to birthday parties without all of us, it wasn't just Lissy celebrating, it was everybody celebrating, because we had all been a part of the solution to the problem.
Yeah, I think that is so good. And we also want to talk to you about a principle that we call family recovery mode. When we have a child facing one of these crisis situations, we keep coming back to this, that it's not just how do we help the child, but the child's a part of a whole system. And the family can't continue doing business as usual and expect this child to have a breakthrough of hope and healing and transformation. So talk about what that might look like.
Okay. So going back, when we meet with a family with a child in crisis, one of the first things we do is, of course, say, get them into this no child left behind mindset, then developing a team mindset, and then asking this question, what can we do as a family to put ourselves into a recovery mode? And what we mean by that is that how can we do life differently? What kind of things do we have to maybe pull back from? Are there activities that we're doing? Are we volunteering at church? Is it time to say no to volunteering at church? What kind of things do we have to pull out so that we can add more time? Because these types of problems take a lot of time. They're going to take a lot of time from the child who's in the midst of the crisis, but it's going to take a lot of time from both parents, or if it's a single parent, everyone's going to have to shift their life a little bit. And this affects all the kids, because the other kids are going to know that mom and dad don't have the same time for them.
Right.
But if they've been on board with 1 and 2, if they know their whole family's going to be happier, when this sibling that they love is happier too, then they can be on board with that too. They can understand. I think sometimes another mistake that we make or we see in families is almost trying to keep the problem hidden, or not really addressing it openly, when in reality everyone knows that the problem is there. So it's basically not addressing the elephant in the room. Everyone knows there's an elephant in the room. One example I gave in the conference was just, when a child has cancer, if a child in a family gets cancer, the family's life stops. It literally stops. And people accept that mom has to go to the Ronald McDonald House and stay there during these treatments. Like, everything changes. And in many ways, that's the mindset that has to happen for the family dealing with the family with these types of crises that we talk about. And the problem is we don't go there first. We try to fix it with as minimal effort and as minimal changes, and that often leads to more and more problems. So one thing we want to see in this recovery mode is that we want to see the heart connection in the family increase. And we find that the 3 ways that happens, their top 3, I call it, is laughing together, praying together, and working together. So even though in your recovery mode, it doesn't mean you're not doing things like working together, like maybe that's cleaning the kitchen together or yard work together, things that you have a common goal and serving together at home. We're not being separated, but you're working together. And then things that just increase more laughter in the house. I mean, in the Rienow house, that's more family movie nights, more downtime. So there's time for just things that we enjoy so we can laugh together, because these things build heart connection among the whole family, which is something that the child in crisis really, really needs.
Yep. And you mentioned praying together, and one of the best ways to get that going in a non-threatening way, in a way that helps build heart connection with the family, is high-low. And we usually do that at the dinner table. Sometimes we do it at family worship time, but usually at the dinner table. So describe what high-low and how that works.
Well, high-low is just, it's actually, I would call it a form of family worship. So we really do try to get the families doing some form of family worship, because again, family worship is helping them pray together more and helping their relationships grow together. Horizontal relationships become stronger, but also then their whole vertical relationship with God. So that's why we encourage family worship, but we find high and low to be one of the most unintimidating ways to get that process going. And high and low is simply going around and just talking about what was your high for the day and what was your low. And then after everyone does that, praying about them, so it's, it can be very simple, but it's amazing to me how often this simple practice, this simple type of family worship, all of a sudden, again, connects people to other people's lives, because you can be living in a family and be so busy, and I call it kind of the silo families, where everyone just has their own individual lives and they have their own individual problems and they're having their own individual high-lows, and no one really knows what those are for each other. So it's another way to increase this heart connected through a very simple form of family worship. But it is family worship, and you might add a scripture at the end or read something to go with that as well.
Yeah. And it creates this built-in opportunity for a short prayer of thanksgiving,
right,
and a built-in opportunity, a prayer for asking for God's help for those lows, for those hard things that we're facing. Well, we're going to do one more episode on this subject of helping kids in crisis. And in our next episode, we're going to talk about Christian counseling. We're going to talk about outpatient programs and inpatient programs for some of those severe crises that our kids may be facing. And I also want to tell you about a new resource. It has a great title. It's called Love God and Love Others. The Bible tells us that all the commandments hang on those 2 commands, and our partners at Christian Parenting have just released this new book. It's actually a 4-week family worship guide for families, fun, interactive. You're going to learn all about God's love for you. You're going to learn about what does it look like to love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and then love your neighbor as yourself, beginning with your neighbors that you live with in your family. So you can get your copy of Love God and Love Others at cpgive.org. That's cpgive.org. And don't forget about my new book coming out very, very soon, Let There Be Fish, Becoming a Fisherman or Fisherwoman of Faith. And we'll let you know as soon as that is ready. As always, you can email us. We'd love to hear your prayer requests for your family, feedback from how Family Vision's made a difference in your life, or if you'd like to talk about hosting a Visionary Family Conference at your church in the future, we would be privileged to serve you and partner with you in reaching families in your community. And we look forward to our next time with you on Family Vision.